We dated for 5 years. I proposed in Maui, but she laughed and said, "You're not on my level." My whole family was watching and laughing too, so I walked away and built a life she'd never belong in. For 5 long years, I had poured my heart, soul, and every quiet hope into a relationship that I believed was built on trust, love, and a shared future. I'm Oliver, 30 years old, raised in a modest suburb of Ohio where the lessons were simple. Work hard, treat people right, and keep your promises. I didn't come from wealth or flashy status symbols, but I had built a life rooted in stability, discipline, and sincerity. Working my way up through an engineering firm hadn't made me rich, but it made me proud. Every promotion, every project, every overtime hour represented something I was building not just for myself, but for us. That word meant Emma. For 5 years, Emma was my why. We first crossed paths in college, where she lit up lecture halls and parties alike with that magnetic energy only certain people are born with. She was stunning, charismatic, and brilliant. The kind of girl you'd think walked right out of a dream and into the real world. She came from money. Her father owned a chain of car dealerships. Her mother a high-ranking real estate mogul. Designer bags, lavish trips, private tutors, that was her normal. But back then, she never made me feel like I didn't belong. Or at least that's what I convinced myself to believe. And so, as our relationship blossomed, I let myself believe that love truly could bridge worlds so different. Despite our contrasts, her high society dinners versus my home-cooked meals, her weekend spa retreats versus my Sunday football nights, we found ways to laugh, to connect, to merge our lives in the soft, gentle ways couples do when they're dreaming of forever. We took trips together, made it a tradition to celebrate the holidays at each other's homes, ordered greasy takeout while watching trashy reality shows, and held each other through grief. Her when she lost her childhood dog, and me when I buried the grandfather who raised me. To outsiders, we were couple goals, the smiling pair posting sunset selfies and holding hands on hiking trails. But social media was just the highlight reel. What happened behind the screens was more complicated. During the 5th year, I started to notice shifts, not obvious cracks, but subtle erosions. Emma became harder to reach. Our weekend plans often got replaced with her networking events. And she was always too tired, too busy, or too distracted. She began surrounding herself with a new group. People who dripped in wealth, flaunted status, and spoke in a language of elitism I never quite understood. Conversations with her started feeling less like warm chats between partners and more like business transactions. Every time I voiced my concern, she brushed it off with a casual laugh or an eye roll, saying, "You're overthinking, babe. Don't be so insecure." I should have seen the red flags. But love, as they say, is a kind of beautiful blindness. And I loved her. So, instead of walking away, I dug in deeper. I started saving money, cutting down on my own expenses, skipping nights out with friends so I could put aside enough to plan the proposal of her dreams. Maui, that was her dream destination. For years, she'd gushed about the cliffs, the ocean breeze, the sunsets. So I booked it. Quiet, romantic, private. I even hired a local photographer to capture the moment when I dropped to one knee. I thought, this will remind her how much we mean to each other. That morning, we snorkeled together, laughed like old times, shared inside jokes that once made her eyes sparkle. For a few hours, I truly believed the distance between us had melted. As the sun began to set, I took her hand and walked her up a trail lined with palm trees, where the horizon kissed the sea. My heart was racing, palms sweaty, knees weak. Not out of fear, but because I was about to ask the only question that had ever mattered to me. I pulled out the ring, a simple yet elegant design she once said she loved, and I went down on one knee, my voice trembling as I spoke about the past 5 years, the memories, the future I couldn't envision without her. But what happened next? I still hear it like echoes in a silent room. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She didn't say yes or no instead. She laughed loud, sharp, and cold. It wasn't nervous or joyful. It wasn't a giggle of surprise. It was a scoff, a dismissive snort like I just offered her a toy ring from a vending machine. Then came her words, the ones that tore through every layer of me. Oliver, are you serious right now? You really think I'd say yes? I was frozen, still kneeling, still holding out that ring like an idiot. She continued, "You're a great guy, seriously, but come on. You know we're not the same. You don't match my status. You're not on my level. I mean, I was passing time with you. You're stable, you're sweet, but you're not built for my lifestyle. You can't keep up." I remember staring at her face, hoping it was a joke, some horrible prank. 5 years, 5 birthdays, 5 anniversaries, 5 Christmases together, all reduced to passing time. I wanted to yell, to cry, to beg, but something in me broke, or maybe it finally woke up. I stood up slowly, put the ring back in my pocket without a word. My voice was even, my expression calm, though inside I was a hurricane. "Thanks for letting me know," I said. "I wish you'd said it sooner." She tried to laugh it off again, tried to say, "Don't be dramatic, Oliver." But I was already walking away, leaving her alone on that perfect cliffside she once called heaven. And just to add salt to a fresh wound, I later learned that Emma had shared the moment with her family through a group chat. Apparently, they all knew I was going to propose, and they laughed too. Her own mother mocked the ring. Her cousins called me the safe bet she'd never cash in. I was the punchline in a rich people's joke. My heart didn't just break. It shattered into something unrecognizable. I walked back to the hotel with my head held high, though every step felt like I was dragging 1,000 pounds of heartache behind me. I didn't say a word to anyone that evening. I canceled the photographer, the dinner reservation at the beachside restaurant I'd booked weeks in advance, and even the couple's massage session we had scheduled for the next morning. I didn't cry. I didn't break down. I just sat on the edge of the hotel bed, staring out at the ocean as the waves crashed softly against the shore. The same waves that just hours earlier had seemed so peaceful, now sounded like distant echoes of everything I thought my future was supposed to be. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept replaying her laugh over and over again in my head. The way she looked at me with contempt, like I was some foolish boy dreaming too big. And it wasn't just her. Her whole family, the people who'd sat across from me at dinners, who'd toasted champagne with me during New Year's, who'd once said I was good for Emma, were apparently laughing too. Behind my back, they saw me as a joke. And the woman I loved for 5 years? She was leading the laughter. The flight home felt like an endless tunnel of silence. I didn't listen to music. I didn't watch movies. I just sat there, eyes fixed on nothing, thinking about every moment we'd shared. The time we got lost in Colorado and ended up camping on a stranger's land, laughing as rain soaked our tent. The time she fell sick and I spent the whole weekend at her side, feeding her soup and reading her favorite books aloud. I thought about her birthday last year, when I took her on a surprise helicopter ride over the city because she once mentioned it in passing. I thought about every time I chose her over myself, and every time I let my own needs fade into the background just to make her smile. And for what? A dismissive laugh on a cliffside and a cold reminder that I was never on her level. But that's the funny thing about pain. It has a way of stripping away the illusions. I realized that I had spent 5 years building a castle out of sand, hoping that if I just believed hard enough, it wouldn't wash away. But now the tide had come, and it left me with nothing but broken shells and wet clothes. I could have let that destroy me. I could have let it turn me bitter. But instead, I made a decision. I was going to become everything she said I couldn't be. Not for her, not out of spite, but for me. Because deep down, I knew I deserved better. I knew I deserved a life where I wasn't just passing time for someone. The first thing I did when I got home was cut every tie. I blocked her number, unfollowed her on social media, deleted every photo, every video, every text thread. I didn't do it out of anger. I did it for closure, because I knew that if I left even a single door cracked open, she might slide back in. And I wasn't going to let that happen. I didn't just want to move on. I wanted to build something so beautiful, so unshakably strong, that her absence wouldn't even be noticed anymore. So I threw myself into rebuilding. I started waking up at 5 a.m. every day, hitting the gym before work. I changed my diet, cut out the junk food, started taking my health seriously. I took on extra projects at my engineering firm, signed up for certifications, learned new skills. I stopped watching life happen and started making it happen. In 6 months, I was promoted. In a year, I was leading projects across states. I reconnected with old friends, the ones I'd neglected while trying to fit into Emma's world. I took trips with them, made new memories, laughed until my stomach hurt, and slowly, the shadow Emma had cast over my life started to fade. But life has a way of sending little echoes from the past when you least expect them. One day, I got a message from a mutual friend, a casual text saying, "Hey, just so you know, Emma's been asking about you." I didn't respond. A few weeks later, another friend mentioned she'd been seen alone at bars, not looking her usual glamorous self. Apparently, the high-level guys she chased didn't stick around. One ghosted her after months of stringing her along. Another used her for status and then replaced her with a younger, flashier woman. Her perfect life was starting to show cracks. And then one day fate played its card. I bumped into her at a grocery store of all places. I was grabbing a cart when I saw her by the fresh produce section. She looked different, not bad, just duller, less sparkle. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Oliver," she said, like she wasn't sure if I was real. I gave a simple nod. "Hey." She just stood there, frozen. Then she smiled weakly, hesitantly. "You look different." I shrugged. "Yeah, things change." She opened her mouth like she had 1,000 things to say, but none of them came out right away. Instead, she just whispered, "I've been meaning to call you. I've been thinking a lot." I didn't flinch, didn't smile, didn't give her the satisfaction of knowing she still had even a sliver of space in my mind. "Thinking about what?" I asked flatly. She fumbled. "About us. About everything. I made a mistake, Oliver." Her voice was softer now, laced with regret. I stayed silent, letting her sit in that moment. "I was stupid," she continued. "I don't even know why I said those things. I didn't mean it." I crossed my arms calmly, steady. "Yeah, you didn't mean it. You just didn't think there'd be consequences." Her smile fell. Her eyes flickered with something close to shame. "I was young, dumb. I didn't realize how good I had it. How good you were to me." I nodded. "You didn't." She looked like she wanted to say more. Maybe apologize, maybe beg. But I didn't let her. "I hope you're doing okay. Really. But we're not those people anymore." And I turned around and walked away, leaving her standing there with her cart, surrounded by the very ordinary life she once looked down on. As I stepped out into the parking lot, my phone buzzed. It was a friend who'd been in the store. "Bro, I just saw that. She stood there for 5 minutes after you left, just staring at the door. She looked broken." I didn't reply, not because I didn't care, but because I realized in that moment that this was the real revenge. Not screaming, not getting even, not rubbing success in her face. No, the real revenge was her realizing she let go of a man who became everything she never thought he could be, without her. In the following days, the texts started. Small at first. "Hey, hope you're doing well." Then longer. "I miss talking to you. Can we catch up?" I left them all on read. Not out of spite. Just because she didn't exist in my world anymore. But then came the long message. You know, the type, the kind someone writes and rewrites a dozen times before hitting send. She poured her heart out. How she'd changed. How she regretted what she'd said. How she missed me. How she'd do anything for a second chance. I read it, and then put my phone down, because the Oliver who would have dropped everything to hear those words, he was gone. The one who waited for her to realize his worth, he didn't exist anymore. A week later, she called me. I answered out of curiosity. "Oliver," she said breathlessly, "please don't hang up." "I wasn't planning to," I replied, calm. "Can we meet? Just talk." I let her sit in silence for a few seconds. "Emma," I said, my voice even, "let me make this simple. I'm not angry. I don't hate you. In fact, I genuinely wish you the best. But whatever you're hoping for, it's not going to happen. That bridge isn't just burned. It's gone. Her voice cracked. I was stupid, Oliver. I know that. I was young. I took a deep breath. We were the same age. I didn't suddenly grow up after that day. I just stopped waiting for someone who couldn't see my worth. Complete silence. Then I added the final nail. You said I wasn't on your level. You were right. We're not on the same level anymore. And I hung up. That's the thing no one tells you about closure. It doesn't come from the other person. It comes from realizing you deserve more. It comes from walking away and never looking back. I eventually met someone new. Someone who didn't care about status, labels, or bank accounts. Someone who loved me for me. And we built something real. Something that didn't need Instagram likes or designer bags to validate it. Emma? She drifted from one guy to the next, always chasing something shinier. But people like that, they're always running, never settling, never happy. I never blocked her number. I didn't need to. She just stopped. Eventually, she understood. Or maybe she finally realized she was just a ghost in a chapter of my life that was already closed. So that's my story. 5 years thinking I found forever, only to discover I was just a temporary distraction in her world. But walking away from that cliff in Maui, best decision I ever made. Thanks for listening. Hit that like button if you've ever been undervalued and rose anyway. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that hit hard.